This Dragon Ball Super Future Trunks arc is so freaking awesome and we're all having a great time watching it, but boy oh boy is this thing leaving us scratching our heads with so many new questions. So Dragon Ball historians like myself and a few others, we're trying our best to answer these questions, but some of them seem pretty hard to answer and a big chunk of them have to do with the return of one of Dragon Ball's most prolific characters. No, not Trunks, Mai. Mai is back in the spotlight, and from the beginning, when we first saw the promotional art for this arc, we were surprised that Mai was there with future Trunks. Now obviously a lot of this was teased in the Battle of God story, but we were all pretty surprised to find that the future version of Mai wound up being, I guess, Trunks' girlfriend, and then later on of course we found out that she was the leader of the resistance against Black in the future timeline. But ever since she returned, one of the questions that I've gotten constantly has been, why the hell does future Mai look so young? How in the fuck did Mai and Trunks from the future hook up? And is Trunks dating like an older woman who just looks younger? Or did she wish herself to be younger? Or what the hell's going on in the future timeline when it comes to Mai? On this video, I may have an answer for you. This is Geekdom 101. What I want to do here with this video is start off by talking briefly about the inconsistency of the ages of the characters in Dragon Ball when it comes to characters like Mai and Bulma, when it comes to comparing the original 42 volumes of the Dragon Ball manga to Toriyama's new material, Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and Super. When Bulma was first introduced in Dragon Ball, she was 16 years old, which means that she was born in age 733. Mai is said to be just 3 years older, and that makes her 19 years old when we see her at the beginning of Dragon Ball. Now the big problem lies that if you do the math from Dragon Ball all the way to when Battle of Gods takes place in age 778, this would put Bulma in actuality at 45 years old. And concordingly, that would put Mai at 48 years old. However, when you watch the movie, Bulma states that she's 38 years old. Now, when I first saw Battle of Gods, I immediately thought that Bulma was just lying about her age, and the tone of the voice actors in the Japanese version kind of solidified that for me, and I thought she was just kind of coyly lying about how old she was. But then in the film, Mai says that she's 41 years old, which is, again, 3 years older than 38. So even though Bulma and Mai still have that 3-year age difference, the ages in Battle of Gods completely contradict those from the original Dragon Ball manga, and unfortunately Toei has not provided us with the exact timeline of Dragon Ball Super if it's changed, but the majority of the community, including myself, have presumed that it's the same time as the movie, age 778 for Battle of Gods, into age 780, which is when the Future Trunks arc takes place. If you go to the May 2013 issue of V-Jump, Toriyama had a special interview there where he talked about the age difference, and he states that he came up with the idea that if he made them younger, they'd be just right. Now, when he says that quote, I'm not sure if he's referring to actually making them younger as far as their actual ages go for Bulma and Mai, or if he means actually turning the Pilaf Gang into kids. But based on the previous question, which is about the Pilaf Gang, I'm thinking he means turning them into kids, and that tells me that this really doesn't answer what's going on. Again, it's a contradiction, and honestly kind of an irritating plot hole if you ask me, because then if you do the math, during the Future Trunks arc, Bulma's supposed to be 47 years old, and that would put Mai at 50, even though she's in the body of a child. So how old would that make Mai in Trunks' future? Well, 50 plus 17 means that Mai in Trunks' future is a 67-year-old woman. How's that for being creepy? However, if you go by the Battle of Gods altered younger ages, Mai would be 43 during the Future Trunks arc, and in the future would be 60. Still pretty damn old, and still twice the age of even Future Trunks. Now this of course brings me to talk about the modern Toriyama art style versus the classic Toriyama art style. Dragon Ball Super and all the stuff surrounding that timeline has drastically changed how Toriyama draws characters. Case in point, Bulma. Bulma, no matter which way you slice it, looks younger in Resurrection F and in subsequent arcs than she did even during the Buu saga, no matter where you place her age. Modern Toriyama character designs have made the characters look younger, sometimes they look thinner, and it's definitely a change from the style that he had back in the 90s and 80s when he was drawing Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump and Chrono Trigger and all the stuff he was working on. His art style definitely changed. So when I first saw the picture of Mai, it didn't really hit me that she was 60 or 67. I just thought that she was an older woman in the future, and I thought that Toriyama was drawing her younger. And the reason why I thought this is because of not only the other character designs, but because myself and a lot of other people assumed that Mai's future counterpart did not wish herself to be a little girl. The survival of Goku is what created the butterfly effect to where the timeline diverged. In the future, Goku died. In the present timeline, he survived. And as a result of that, the events of the Buu saga, the Cell saga, Battle of Gods, etc. were drastically altered in Trunks' timeline. I've talked about this on several other videos I've done on this channel. But of course, where does that leave Mai? Is Mai just an older woman who looks young? Does she have that aging cream that Bulma's mother used to stay the exact same age for the entire series? What is going on here? Is it just Toriyama's artwork making her younger? Well, there's one key point that actually needs to be brought up that I think a lot of people are forgetting. When Battle of Gods came out and we saw the Pilaf Gang as kids, the vast majority of us assumed that the Pilaf Gang had wished themselves to be kids rather recently in the timeline, meaning right before the Battle of Gods movie happened or even the arc. But when you really think about it, there's no evidence that suggests that they actually did it during that time. Think about Dragon Ball Z. The Pilaf Gang was nowhere to be seen anywhere in Dragon Ball Z, and in fact wouldn't even pop up in the anime again until Dragon Ball GT Episode 1. So who's to say that Mai, Pilaf, and Shu didn't wish themselves to be younger at a previous time, which would explain their lack of appearance throughout the entire Dragon Ball Z anime. And yeah, granted, this is a retcon, it's not really that much of a contradiction. It could be possible that Mai, Pilaf, and Shu were able to successfully gather the Dragon Balls in the 3-year time period when the Z Fighters were training for the androids. Realistically, Pilaf could have gathered the Dragon Balls since everybody else was distracted and worried, wished himself to be younger, and of course the whole joke is that the dragon made him into a baby. And as a result of that, it would somewhat explain where we're at now, because if you watch the Future Trunks arc, Trunks and Mai are roughly the same age. So if Mai went from being a grown woman down to being, a baby, a newborn baby or whatever, maybe even a year-old baby in age 766, it would perfectly line up with how old she looks in Battle of Gods and in Future Trunks timeline. Most recently, Dragon Ball Super manga artist Toyotaro, who works hand in hand with Toriyama on the Dragon Ball Super manga story, may have validated this theory even further. Recently, a part of a very special Japanese magazine called Jump Victory Carnival, Toyotaro drew 2 pages that are being considered by many fans as the bonus chapters of a Dragon Ball Super manga, which may have shed some light on what may have happened in Future Trunks' timeline. Essentially what he drew is that the Z Fighters gathered the Dragon Balls together to try to wish Goku back to life, but just before they were able to make that wish, Pilaf's gang jumped in there and wished themselves to be children, and that's pretty much how they became children, and that would explain Mai's age in the future. Now, of course, this would only apply to the future timeline because in the present timeline, the Z Fighters were off training and Goku was not dead. But even though this is a retcon, it actually does make sense and is not directly contradicting anything that happened in the series. So could work. Just remember that this is drawn by Toyotaro, and it's just like a little bonus manga thing. We're really not sure what Toriyama's actual statement is on this, or if he was even involved. It could just be Toyotaro trying to fill in the blanks for all of us fans. And this is again why I always say not to overthink canon, because there's so many different variables involved with putting Dragon Ball together that there is no definitive canon. But like I said, it would make sense that in the future timeline this happened. The only question I have is, how in the hell did a baby version of Pilaf, Shu, and Mai survive all these years in the wilderness? Were they picked up by an orphanage? Did they end up having to raise themselves because they have the mentality of an adult? What exactly happened? Was this like a Rugrats thing where Pilaf, Shu, and Mai were actually smarter than they gave off to the grown-ups? Is that what was going on here? If so, someone needs to write a letter to Toei and say, hey, I want my damn Pilaf Rugrats movie, because that would be freaking awesome. But anyways, I digress. This explanation makes the most sense. It seems like the Pilaf Gang did wish themselves to be younger way back in the middle of the Android arc. In both timelines, one way or another, it makes the most sense. And I guess that you have to retcon everything and headcanon everything, but it's the only way that I think any of this makes any sense. Or maybe Mai really is 60-something years old, and maybe future Trunks has a fetish for older women. Then again, you like what you like, and if I found a 67-year-old woman who looked like Mai, I'd probably give it a thought or two. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Spread it out. Catch you guys down the road.